There's also the questioning technique in conducting the interview. So first is the funneling technique. So what is this funneling? So at the beginning of an unstructured interview, it is advisable to ask open-ended questions to get a broad idea and form some impressions about the situations. So funneling, it involves progressively narrowing down the questions based on the interviewer's responses and key issues. So the example of such technique is this. What are some of your feelings about working for this organization? So this funneling, so you are narrowing down the questions based on the interviewee's response. Number two of the questioning technique is the unbiased questions. So this unbiased questions is crucial to minimize bias in the responses and avoid loaded questions that could influence the answers. For example, tell me how you experience your job is a better question than, boy, the work you do must be really boring. Let me hear how you experience it. So there's already bias in that questioning. Clarifying issues. Rephrasing or stating important information given by respondent and seeking clarification is needed. So in case pag may hindi naintindihan, if certain things are being said are not clear, the researcher should seek clarification. For example, if the respondent happens to say, the facilities here are really poor, we often have to continue working even when we are dying of thirst. The researcher might ask if there is no water fountain or drinking water available in the building. The respondent's reply to this might well indicate that there is a water fountain across the hall, but the respondent would like one on his side of the work area as well. So uh, number four technique is helping the respondent to think through issues. If the respondent is not able to verbalize her perception or replies, I don't know, the researcher should ask the question in a simpler way or rephrase it. For instance, if a respondent is unable to specify what aspect of the job he dislikes, the researcher might ask the question in a simpler way. For example, the respondent might be asked which task he would prepare to do: serve a customer or do some filling work. If the answer is serve the customer, the researcher might use another aspect of the respondent's job and ask the paired choice question again. In this way, the respondent can sort out which aspects of the job he likes better than others. The last the last technique is taking notes. So the interviewer should take notes during the interview to avoid relying on a memory which could introduce bias into the research. So kailangan yung interviewer mag-take note siya dun sa ina-interview niya kung ano yung mga sagot doon. Hindi kailangan mag-rely sa memory kasi ang memory natin is hindi naman siya kumbaga sa Bisaya pa dili masaligan kay makalimot ganin tagdaghan ng kay tagyo na huna. So kinahanglan mag-take notes ka during sa interview. So you could also tape interviews. But these tape interviews before ka ani mohimo dapat mangayo sa ka og permission sa interviewer kay usually taping interviews could bias the respondent's answer. So it should only be done with their permission and when it is reasonably certain that it won't bias the information received. So anong makabias man in taping interviews? Siyempre, kung i-tape nimo ang interviews, ma-conscious ang imuhang gi-interview. So somehow, dili niya ma-explain o maayo ang gusto niya i-explain. So that are the four, I think, five questioning technique. So in summary, establishing So, in summary, Establishing establishing credibility as able researcher is important for the success of the research project. Researchers need to establish rapport with the respondents and motivate them to give responses relatively free from bias by allaying whatever suspicions, fears, anxieties, and concerns they may have about the research and its consequences. While interviewing, the researcher has to ask broad questions initially and then narrow them down to specific areas. Ask questions in a biased way, offer clarification when needed, and help respondents to think through difficult issues. The responses should be transcribed immediately and should not be trusted to memory and later recalled. That's all. Thank you for listening.